package was opened for US Customs and Border Protection. So it looks like Customs thought this was something interesting, but I actually don't know what this is. This is a bit like a mystery unboxing at present. The sticker on the side, which has my address on, doesn't really give anything away. I'm sure the contents will jog my memory pretty quickly. But yeah, let's see what's inside and see if it's worth your time. What is this? Oh yes, I think I know what this is. So this is from RZE, and this should be a sample of their new digital watch. Or maybe not. Oh wow, how peculiar. Toyo Toolbox T150. And then we also have what looks like a titanium bracelet there. How peculiar. Now, I thought I knew what this was. Oh. Very unusual tin packaging. What is this? Oh, it is the digital. Okay, yeah, they've really gone the whole hog with this. Now, this is a watch I've been quite intrigued by, and I think a lot of people online have been too, because I think in some ways, people may find this to be a viable competitor to the likes of Casio, because a lot of other watch brands, like the likes of Timex, when they've attempted the whole Casio formula, they've never quite mastered it. The watches often just feel worse at the same price. Whereas here, what RZE has done, at least from some of the early stuff I saw on this watch, they may have actually beaten Casio, at least in terms of durability and materials. So this is the UTD 8000. And RZE isn't, pitching this as some sort of Casio killer or anything like that, but it sure has a fair bit of promise, because this watch is, I think it's just under $200 at the time of writing. At least it's launching at that price. Pre-orders are open now for a June 2025 shipment date, it says here. But for that price, this watch offers not only full metal construction, which includes the case and the bracelet here, but as you can see from the text here, it's titanium, and it's more than just the standard titanium. This is their Ultra Hex titanium, which is just insanely good stuff, basically. I mean, this is about as scratch resistant as titanium can get, at least from my previous scratch tests that I've conducted. It's much better than the Citizen Super Titanium, for example. This stuff absolutely smoked that in the scratch test. So you can essentially get a full metal digital watch with high-end scratch performance for way less than the Casio ones. But what I'm most interested to try with this is just to see how it stands up in other regards. Because with digitals, you always have other factors like the legibility of the display and also the functions as well. Just give that a quick cycle through. Light, is that? I'll have to give that a test in the dark in a moment. But as for first impressions, I mean, the case is very well constructed here. Not the thinnest in the world though, as you can see here. I'll get the actual measurements for you in a second, but the rest of it feels incredibly well built. Now, RZE has said this is actually as thin as they can get while retaining proper shock resistant properties. So you can see the full details of that on their site. But this watch is supposed to be like fully shock resistant and offer you comparable performance to some of the more famous shock resistant watches on the market, which is why they've had to make it this level of thickness apparently. But they've been doing all sorts of torture tests on it, and it definitely feels durable in the hands. Now, first impressions on the display. I think the display's okay, it's not great. From square on, it's quite good and legible, and it's also quite big, as you can see. But at steep angles, legibility does fall off a cliff. But that seems to mainly be from the side angles, as you can see here. There you go. But if you just go from square on and tilt it, it is still legible, which I think is probably more important. If the watch is going to be on your wrist, you aren't going to be trying to read the time from this distance, like on this Casio, for example. Now, as for functions, what have we got here? So we've got day, date, and time on the main screen. What else have we got? Stopwatch. Let's give that a test. Pushes feel really good. Quite familiar, and they actually have maybe a little bit more travel than some of the Casio ones, which I think feels better. Almost has like a mechanical click to it in a way. What else do we have apart from the stopwatch? We have alarms, and that's about it. It's more like the core features from the looks of this. Nice to see we've got screws here, and apparently these are actual functional screws, so they help to hold some parts of the bezel and internals in place or something. So they aren't just put there for decoration. And they're also perfectly aligned, which is nice to see. I've noticed that on a lot of these bezeled watches with screws in, even some of the higher end ones often don't have the screws neatly aligned, whereas these all are like perfectly aligned to the center. That's a good little final touch. We've got a case back there with 4 what looks like Torx screws holding it in place. Now, what are the rest of the specs on this? The movement in here, it just says Custom UTD 8000 Advanced Multifunction Digital Module. Now, I don't know how advanced it realistically is because it just has simplistic features, but I think I've got a screwdriver I can use to open this up. So I'm going to have a quick peek and I'll show you inside it. Now, it does have some actually pretty big specs. And oh, wow. Battery CR2032. Isn't that like a motherboard battery, which is big? Yeah, very intrigued to look inside that now. It's got really big water resistance, actually, 20 ATM or 200 meters. And the crystal is a sapphire crystal here with an internal anti-reflective coating, and it works pretty well there. You can see it doesn't inhibit legibility much at all, and that's definitely an upgrade over a lot of the Casio watches. I've got a couple of strap options here. I think by default it might just come on this slightly elasticated band. Let's have a feel of that. It feels like it survived well, and it's got the multi-pad Velcro finish here. Not sure exactly what you describe this as. Quick release on both sides, actually, even this side here, so we can swap that out in an instant. And alternatively, you can have it on the titanium bracelet. So, oh, and by the way, if I haven't already said, I think this is just on loan from RZE. I don't think I'm keeping this or anything, so we'll be going back. What looks like a very custom fit bracelet here. All solid titanium links. Or alternatively, you can go for this fully solid link ultra hex titanium bracelet. Still has that gunmetal finish with faceted H links. Also seems to have fully custom end links there, peculiar like sharp shape, so it should integrate very well. We'll give that a test in a second. And they also say here on the site it's got quick click on the fly buckle, so let's have a closer look at that. So yeah, it's got nice milled clasp there. Okay, yeah, so this is just a different interpretation of that kind of glide lock style mechanism. So you get a big range actually of concealed micro adjustments. Not sure it's quite as good as some of the other systems I've tried, but it's certainly good enough. Better than most options out there. Also holds in place quite well. A little bit better than the Nodex system, I'd say, on Nodus watches. As for dimensions, what have we actually got here? Because this, it isn't as small as the likes of the F91W or anything. It's definitely a bit bigger, but it's nowhere near the size of most G-Shocks. That's 43mm wide. Doesn't look quite that big, I wouldn't say. Lug to lug, 49mm lug to lug, and thickness of 13.5. And there it is on my 6.25 inch wrist. Now this watch comes in multiple colours. Yellow is a really popular colour actually for this brand. Probably wouldn't be my first pick among the options that they've got, but it certainly has a pretty distinctive look there. And while I think the watch generally looks pretty good on the wrist, there's one thing I definitely don't really like, and it's just how the two bars passing over the top cast shadows onto the display there. I always tend to prefer it when, if you've got stuff going over the display like this, I tend to like it when the display is as tight as possible to that, although I don't know the technicalities behind how that's accomplished. Now this is exaggerated here because I've got, a studio light just out the frame here, beaming the light right down onto it. Other than that though, I don't think it's a bad looking digital watch. It's also not massively thick or anything. Doesn't wear quite as thick as it sounds. And at the end of the day, it's nice to see some more competition in the digital space. It feels like Casio has just had a free run for too long, in my opinion, and I like Casio watches. I was wearing a Casio at the start of this video actually, but they've just not really had any competition. No one else really gunning for it. This strap feels pretty decent actually, and I guess with the Velcro mechanism you have an unlimited amount of adjustments to make. I'll try the bracelet on it in a second. I mean, the whole thing is much smaller than most of the metal G-Shocks. Now here's a quick look at the case back actually while we've got that off. Very high quality etching or lasering, however that's been done. Very, very neat. I'll try this on and then we'll have a quick look at the module. And the integration isn't absolutely perfect, but definitely looks good enough at a glance and not a deal breaker or anything. I'll leave a link to this watch in the video description if you want to check it out. I wonder if maybe I actually prefer it on the strap actually and not the bracelet. I feel like maybe with this colour in particular, just because it's so bright, it makes more sense just to go fully down the casual route instead with it, and the band just really aids that. Lug width, by the way, is 20mm. Now let's have a look at that movement. And I hope I put this back together correctly. I get the distinct impression that this watch is one you could probably throw off the side of a mountain and it would be okay. Wow, yeah, it is a motherboard battery. And there's a whole bunch of stuff going on underneath there with all this plastic support plates. Now, to be honest, I think this is probably as far as I'm going to venture with this because I don't want to misplace something. But yeah, there really isn't much wasted space there. With that large battery, everything really is crammed in there. So I think they were probably telling the truth when they said that they made it as thin as they could, because the clearance, very low there. And then you've got like a rubber dampener on this other side. Really interesting. You often see a lot of watches with like a tiny movement or module inside and then a bunch of like plastic filling the space. But whatever's going on under here is quite different. That is a huge battery. Never seen a module like that before. At the top there it says BUZ. Don't know if that means anything. I mean, it does just say AC on the left side. And it's also spring loaded the back here. And here's a quick look at the backlight. So it's one of those almost like some of the inverted dial ones where predominantly it's the text and numbers that get illuminated, and it's definitely better than the likes of the F91W, for example, but I wouldn't say it's as good as some of the illuminator watches from Casio. Let's see if this stays on if you hold it. No, it just seems to be on for a few seconds per press there. So there is your first look at the UTD 8000 from RZE. Not sure what the 8000 stands for from memory, but it certainly gives a G-Shock a run for its money, and it's overall just good to see more competition in this space. I'll link it in the description if you want to check it out.